I'm here with Canela Michelle Meyers, a Canadian spiritual teacher, one of our keynote speakers at Mindful Mann. So we're really pleased that she's here. Her session at Mindful Mann, as some of you will know, was very different, very special. I really enjoyed it. And you were the only female speaker this year, which is, something I want to talk to you about as well. But I just thought I'd ask you a few more questions and go a bit more in depth with you over some themes whilst you're still on the island.
Perfect.
So I thought I'd kind of start at the start, and hopefully this isn't a boring question for you. What I'd be interested to know is, for you, what is awakening or enlightenment? What is that?
I like to kind of say it's a two-pronged process. And I say it like as if I've said that before, and I never have actually. But it's good. How I do see it, because there's the absolute and that which plays in it. So to put that in practical ways, there's the space that we exist in right now, and then there's the humanity that we are being played out in each moment as we are. So a lot of people go for enlightenment, and that would be becoming aware of the absolute as infinity, that it's not about us, humans, that's a kind of a small part of what the universe is, whereas most people are primarily thinking, we're it, just what shows up here as a human being. So the two-pronged approach, I can't believe it. Sorry, just new way of putting it, but is both to embrace ourselves as a human being in all the ways that we show up, whether it's, the quirks of our personality, the story that comes with us, our ancestry, whatever it is that comes to be expressed in the moment that we are in, and to relax open to that and get to know ourselves as we are, who we are, with all the quirks and bits, and see that you'll actually fall in love with that. And then, well, at least I'm encouraging that.
Yes.
A lot of people have some resistance to themselves, therefore resistance to each other. So that resistance to ourselves creates an appearance and a felt sense of separation. And so that's the separation of the absolute. So both in inviting contact and awareness, the realization of infinity at play, or consciousness at play as it all is, which would be the awakened state, realize the stateless state of being. But it can be both invited in the longing that often appears in people to find this bigger aspect of what's really going on here. But there's also in embracing ourselves just as the child, whatever it is that comes up within us that seems at first like a problem. To me, that's the tip of the iceberg, and then that can come down and go all the way into whatever it does, and we can then see the iceberg, embrace that, and that lightens up the fabric of ourselves in expression as consciousness. There we are. There's the long way around, but enlightenment is sort of an enlightening process. It's a happening of us becoming more and more aware of the truth of what's really going on here.
Okay, thank you. And prior to your realization, let's call it, or awakening, so do you remember how life was prior, and how did life change after? What was the difference? So what I'm asking is, what difference does it make?
Well, it's the biggest difference is that you can't believe in things that aren't true. Everything so much, as I'm sure you found yourself, that seem to appear to be true is impossible to you just can see it. You're feeling it. It's an actual factual experience. So a lot of what was or what appeared to be true just disappears. And then, the felt sense of moving as infinity is pretty cool. In a way, like this wonderful felt sense of being held by the universe. And not in all moments, but in enough that that's like the base note. So it really encourages me in the moment to relax, open to the humanity that I am, my own humanness. Because it's infinity as well, even though it feels very personal. But I like to say person all.
That's really lovely. It seems to me, or it seemed to me that those 20 odd years of being a separate person with a mind, and I was trapped in it, and I was trying to control everything and push everything away. At the moment of insight or awakening, it's like that was the dream. It's like you wake up and you realize it was dreamlike. It had no base or substance, and yet somehow we were completely hypnotized or immersed in it. Just like any dream, I suppose. So it's kind of waking up from the dream that you were not the universe, playing at play.
Yeah.
So going forward then, how, because I'm assuming you didn't live in a cave or a monastery.
Not this lifetime.
Not in this lifetime. Yet.
Yet, that's right. No, thank you. Monastery maybe could be comfortable, but the cave thing, no, thank you.
Okay, so we've got some caves here on the Isle of Man, No monasteries though. So how did this awakening, realizing that you're not this scrunched little separate me, but you're this kind of, as you say, infinity at play, the person all, which is lovely. But you still have to eat breakfast, and you're in relationship, and I think you had children, or you have children.
I had children beforehand, and afterhand they were also there. And so, part of the clarification of awareness, being aware of itself, was to let go of my world, and that included letting go of my children, which was not as usual for what I've heard, and excruciatingly painful.
So there's a pull away from that.
In order to, not a pull away, a conscious choice to let them go, to bow, to surrender, even that, which felt like letting go of love. And yet I knew that I needed to do that. I knew that I needed to drop whatever appeared as my world. And so I did the best I could at that, of course. Nothing was dropped, turned out. But I didn't know that at the time. Because, where would it go? I mean, you can drop your world, and maybe I ought not to say this, because if people are genuinely renouncing their life, it might be pretty hard to renounce it when you know it's not going to go anywhere. So afterwards, it's following my heart. And also with an equality. Like, part of the process of how the popping through, like you say, popping out of the dream that kind of had a hold of itself, seemed like it was like a river of belief in the fabrication, as if that's what life is about. And then somehow I got out on the bank of the river and could see that it was just a river. Right? Yeah. And then so it's quite different to relate to the river, even though there's not really a bank, or you're not out of it, you're in it.
Yes.
Anyway, so the equality of everything as an expression of consciousness included my children. And so we needed to renegotiate consciously how to be together in this relationship, where I was in the appearance of the mother and they were in the appearance of the children, and yet in meeting them in equality, they still are, but they were also so much more than they appeared to be as just young boys who were 6 and 7 years old. So our relationship changed a lot in being together and became much more of a team. You know, I still needed to provide for us and stuff, but my heart led me through and with everything as it came along, because I could access my heart and see what was the right move in the moment, you know, and literally, you know, like my heart could say, you invited me to come to the Mindful Mann 2019, and I could feel a yes in my heart. Now, whether I get here or not is a totally another thing. So that's how I live, and that's how I've been living since then, is feel it in my heart. Is it yes or no? Sometimes it just happens. It's already at, you know, yes, immediate. And then I'm going, oh, I guess I'm yes to that.
Why don't you, this may be a question that people may have, but it popped up. So, you know, why not trust your head?
Well, what I like to say is, now this is beautiful, because it sounds like the feminine's better when you say that the heart is the feminine and the mind is the masculine, right? However, we both, you know, we need both. Everybody, you know, what would be my invitation would be that the heart lead and the mind support that. So I could say yes to coming because my heart said yes, and then my mind can come in behind my heart and take care of whatever details, do the flight, the practical matters, the structure of being within what appears as a structure, because there is one. You know, we're made up of containers, I like to call it, containers of energy. The container of this chair that holds you, you know, here, like this, even though it's vibrating molecules. With more space, you're not falling through, right? It's holding you, and I like to say, it's holding you regardless of what color your skin is, what language you speak, your age, your sex, and who you like to play with as far as, you know, heterosexual and all that stuff, or who you like to pray to. That chair is unconditional, and it is for everyone, and so is the universe.
Yes.
Just like that. But anyway, the containers. So we are a container. You're the container of Mike that includes the appearance of this play of the molecules, of the atoms, this particular voice, this particular mind, and how it, and this particular awareness of the moments you've experienced, which totally have effect. Does that make sense? Am I answering the question? I can't remember what the question is.
So it was, why not trust your mind? We hear so much about, you know, follow your heart, and which, you know, it's that trust, that surrender, which I mean, that's very much where I feel that I live from. It's the same trusting space, rather than just living in the head, which is kind of cut off. You know, it's kind of isolated from what's happening. It lives in memory. It's not direct.
It can be, right? It can be, because once, as you know, I mean, as we can tell, I mean, obviously your heart says yes to creation of the Mindful Mann festival, right? And yet, obviously, then your mind came in and took care of all the details that were necessary.
Yes.
And I like that you're asking this, because so many people think, oh, live from the heart, and oh, that sounds mushy, and what about, you know, how do you get food on the table? But living from your heart totally includes like that. Well, you took care of all the different details as they came. Whoa. And that, your mind is pretty cool, because I mean, I'm impressed. Wow.
Well, the mind is cool. I mean, you know, there were so many years that I was at war with the mind, or the mind was at war with me, or it felt like that. And it feels now like it's this beautiful creative process. Whether or not I engage with some of the thoughts or not is different, but just the mind flow is just this amazing. I mean, who can do that? No one does that. It's just this whoa. But what I wanted to kind of bring that back to was, how can you know, so you followed your heart, as it were, to lead you away temporarily from your family situation, to follow your trust to
jump off the cliff.
To jump off,
the cliff of whatever I thought everything was, and
Yeah.
100%. And you know, but still, I arranged that they were going to be taken care of and everything.
Yeah.
So, you know, it wasn't like I wasn't responsible, but I certainly triggered a lot of energy alive in family members and everything else, you know, and anybody that knew about it. Either they were, wow, I want to do that. I feel so full. I feel there's something that's so amazing about this, because they could feel something in them that would respond to it. Or they'd be like, no, you can't do this. You cannot leave your children. That's not right. That's not okay. And really heartfully begging me not to do it. You know, whereas I was like, it felt like God. I mean, it felt, you know, I couldn't not anymore.
But you did at some point.
Yeah.
There was
Sorry, did I lose the question here?
Well, no, but this is your journey, you know, and you came back in. So maybe we've just spoken a bit about this, but how does someone who lives from the heart, fully immersed in what is, suddenly, and I ask this because I'm in that place now, you know, return to 2 young children, you know, how does it work? Aren't you supposed to be in a monastery, you know, meditating? Right. You're making sandwiches and you're getting the kids off to school or whatever's happening. How does it happen?
You know, it really touches my heart, because it's, you know, it's once, for me, it's seen as love, right? All of this play, because I've been given the gift of experiencing the void, where everything stops and there's no heart, nothing matters, but nothing matters in a annihilation. It's very dark and it's not pleasant. There's the nothing matters, it's very joyful, but being brought into an experience of the 0 point creates an awareness of the felt sense of that compared to anything that happens out of that. The next moment arrives, and whatever it is, that hearing is happening, that you can see and respond to thoughts or visual information happening, everything is just a blessing. It's like a total, and it cannot be seen as otherwise. So in returning and ending up being a single mother, and handling 2 young, you know, the life for the 3 of us in North Vancouver, and not pushing love around. Seeing where there was a temptation from old ways of being, where I would trespass against myself for them. But I'm part of consciousness too. So very, very tricky in the moment, in a sense. The flow would go to, oh, I have to do this, and total over and over again trespassing against myself for what I thought I was supposed to be doing, and then, but I couldn't, because I could feel the trespass, and so then taking a lot more time to stop and feel into, okay, what now? And it's hard. It was really hard, because I had to say to my kids, that's not going to happen. It's not right for me, without sometimes knowing why. And then often afterwards, something would happen where they were going to go, or something would happen where we are that would make utter sense why love would say, no, don't do that, or don't sign them up for whatever.
So you were living from the heart within that situation, and trusting that that your heart knew best for, you know.
Settling down into that, and then taking a deep breath, but using the mind. See the mind coming after. It's not a division. It's just the heart that says, no, not that. Or I could say that there's not space for me to move into that. Otherwise, they'd feel like a push or of some sort of, it's not right. You just feel it.
Is this, just to unpack that, you know, the trespass, the phrase you used, to trespass against yourself, just kind of unpack that a little bit. Is that kind of what you mean? You feel the resistance there, or there's some kind of inner resistance to something?
Well,
and not to act upon it, or not to...
Right. A lot of parents feel that they have to do this and they have to do that. As soon as there's a have to, that's the push. That's pushing love around. that's a trespass. And then many people will say, what do you mean? You have to do this and you have to do that. Well, that can happen, but just not with the push, if it's meant to happen. So I would land with myself, feel into it, feel whatever it was, even anxiety and the oh my gosh, because often it's an exposed sort of thing to all the other parents and their friends, and here I am like not doing what everybody else is doing, but sitting down with myself, saying, okay, what's up with this? And because I can't push love around, so as soon as there was any kind of push, I would stop, sit down, let the space filter itself sort of by opening to what's going on. And then sometimes from that, I could still do whatever was supposed to happen because I would remember my commitment, which was to include my sons in this play. So that commitment came after the realized, right, that was what was in my heart, is I don't know what else, but I want to be close with them and be with them. And that was what was the most true thing. So that gave me direction.
Could we say intuition? Is that a similar word maybe, like a kind of...
Well, it's listening to what the heart wants.
Yeah.
And the heart was really clear. These beings, I want to be close with them, as close as I can be. And so to be with them, so capital B, capital W, and carry on from there. So it doesn't mean that there's a line saying just because you feel you have to, that just marks the spot that you have to, whatever it is that you feel that you have to do. Sit down and feel that push. And it might be that it just disappears, or it shows you something that happened in your own childhood, and then you can feel compassion for yourself, or compassion for my children, maybe, or I don't know, there was so many instances, and it takes a bit more time. I call it space, but in the way of the mind, getting kids to school on time, all of that stuff, time is what pushes a lot of parents to go and trespass against themselves. So that makes the clock more important than anybody.
Yes.
And my heart just said, no.
I like that image of the clock becomes more important than your own heart, which is our whole culture, I think.
But it's quite unconscious.
Yeah.
People are just functioning with the clock as their ruler. And it's not that the clock isn't to be like, it's not like the couch potato, doing nothing, there's no person here, right? That's not what that's not the humanness being included. It's like my coming here this morning to find my way, without really, the buses or whatever, and not wanting to, my host Katie's been just so incredibly generous, and, not to, just to include all the details, but to get myself here too.
Yeah.
Because it felt right, and but it's a little wobbly sometimes.
Yeah.
When you're not in the place, like to catch the bus at town hall, and like, where's town hall?
Yeah.
And I think I could look that up, and then it was like, taxi, just trust it, taxi, and here I am, right?
So this is interesting because obviously, for those that are interested in practicing or have had flashes of realization, or maybe big shifts, it appears that it's not really some kind of state of perfection that you just flip into, which is quite a relief actually. But we like this myth.
Well, but the thing is, it's also true, because the perfection is with all the, it's like there's no way. I went through menopause. I love that past tense. I don't know if that's exactly true, but let's put it as a went. And whatever is going on, I'm not going to lose my childhood. I'm not going to lose my family in any way. My mother is my mother, regardless of our relationship. I mean, to me, these relationships are something from consciousness or God or source or love to explore more deeply, because it's a solid fabric in the fabric of something not really being all that solid. People who are our moms and dads, sisters and brothers, are permanent features once it happens for eternity. there'll be this Canela Michelle Meyers and this Jim Myers and Joyce, there's this relationship that stands here, so I like to include ancestry and the fabrication of what appears here as a human. The color of the eyes, the sound of my voice can be similar to family members, aspects of myself that speak them, but also in the way we hold energy. So when diabetes, heart disease, all of these show up as a trait in families, how I see that and know it to be from my own experience is where energy gets held and gets passed on, just like the color of our eyes.
Yes, so it's not just a physical or material passing on. Well, we know traumas can be passed on, in the DNA, so why not? So everything is passed on.
Everything is passed on.
And why wouldn't it be?
Right.
Each moment of mind is passed on to this moment of mine. It's all kind of...
Right.
So well, maybe that links into the next theme I was just interested in.
Well, just kind of... one little thing there is that, so those of us that are in this way of recognizing self, who are also parents and younger kids, because you're more in the fray when they're younger, right? Because there's more where nature brings us closer together, because they need to be close to adults, children. But all the plays of all the parents and children of our families and everything that has come into contact with those families arrives here in us to be met. So new pathways of how to be with ourselves, inclusive of ourselves with our children, is what's occurring right now.
The phrase the alchemy of hereditary came into mind, where you become the heat, the transmutation of everything that's come down your line. You can be. By opening to it, you get to be the one that transmutes rather than just pass it down.
Right. If it's not met, it will be passed on. So that, as we can see, that's what's happened. So that's kind of a factual part. But having the opportunity to meet these, not as whatever happened. If you're aware of it, it's an opportunity.
Yes.
To meet these energies in your way, and you'll be geared for it. But usually that's not seen until after you've met whatever the energetics are, or the situation, but following what the heart feels to be true is essential, because in the moment, that's all we ever have. There's books on parenting, but as you probably know, right?
It's there's just a book on parenting.
Well, the moment comes, and there's no way somebody could have written everything that happens in the moment. You're there, they're there, and you need to respond in whatever way you do.
Yeah. And
so that's where it's really being you the best you can, and inclusive of every bit of who you are.
So the next question then, or next theme, would be, again, it kind of links into that. You this time you were the only female teacher or presenter. Next year we'll have more. So we'll do a Mindful Woman Festival. And you did bring something very different, which just on reflection was something more, it came from a place of stillness and silence and space, compared to me, who's just like blah, 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 But I really enjoy just dropping into that stillness and that space, and the kind of not necessarily having to present, ideas, just kind of dropping into the moment and the rain, which was really nice. So my question then is rather about something I've heard you mention, which is the masculine and the feminine.
Right.
Why is it important? What are the differences? And
that, I don't see as much of a difference of like me representing women. Of course I do, because I'm a woman, and yes, definitely represented, women in the fabrication of the appearance of womanishness hasn't been as supported So of course, yes, let's have a nice balance of that, because it's relatable to more people and comes with different views because we're men and women. However, we're all made up of the masculine and feminine. So it's a chit, ananda. So the chit is the masculine, ananda, the feminine. So the heart with the mind, the two intertwining and playing themselves out together. So the stillness is what, I'm here on the Isle of Man. So the pagan view is more, and I'm not really positive this is the actual view, but somehow I've linked it to that. The feminine's the absolute, the reception of what is, and the masculine is that which plays in it. So this fabric, the sound, all of this, like the car going by, to me is this play of the masculinity of ourselves, regardless of whether that's male or female. And then the absolute is the stillness, that all of it rises out of and returns to over and over and over again. And it seems that way because of reception, because the feminine aspect of ourselves is receiving what is, and the masculine is what takes action within it. So in an energetic viewpoint, which mine is, that's why that makes sense. So I see it as a moving energetic, each of us. I see and feel that before I recognize whether there's a man or a woman there. It doesn't have any attributes except for energy moving.
Okay.
And then, wonderfully, everything appears, and the game's going on, and then all the other information also gets included of what's happening in the moment and the aspects of ourselves and the nuance of the conglomeration of existence in the moment.
Okay. And do you think is part of our practice or the kind of ongoing explorational work to kind of integrate that more, balance it more, or to recognize maybe if we're over in one extreme than the other? Because even on the kind of level of certainly spiritual teachers, men and women, there seems to be, you get some female teachers that are very kind of short and sharp.
Yep.
And you get some male teachers that are very kind of open and silent. And then you get, of course, the opposite
variations,
too.
yeah.
It's amazing the different kinds of variations, which I say is so lovely when you gave your talk, because that was a really nice, outstanding variation that I don't think was we'd had so far. And I also don't think people really knew what to do with it.
Yeah, but most people who come and spend time with me in satsang or in the offerings feel it's different than everybody. And to me, I feel that that's a great part due to the depth of inclusion of the human being, the depth of inclusion of myself, and where I've met myself as a human being, as the nitty-gritty, yada, 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 whatever she is, and said, okay, I'm with you. I may as well, because I'm with her anyway. Here she is again. Oh my gosh. So, it's not about getting rid of the human being.
No.
And like you say, there's this idea we're going to fall into a perfect place. Well, good luck with that, But people do say, we're going to go into bliss. We're going to, and yes, it's wonderful knowing that we are infinity, because it can then support us, or I've used it to support myself, to be able to be with the nitty-gritty moments.
Yes.
Because I know that somehow, some way, love's going through something like it is for its own reasons. I may or may not get to know them.
Yes.
Always after understanding comes. And so that's the trust and the surrender from my own experience, right? So this depth of habitation or meeting of the human right? And mostly, you know, I was raped when I was 7, and after realization, I came around to saying, okay, well, how could this possibly be love? I mean, it has totally affected me all of my life and will until the day I leave this body. Whatever I is, right? Whatever I is awareness, no longer uses this vehicle in expression. It's just how it is. There's no way I can go back and make it unhappen, but I can explore bit by bit, gently, what happened in the exploration of how could this be love. And I can say it's love because I can support people who've had things like this happen and know that they can be with the energy or trauma or whatever it is because I've done it. And if I'm just a regular human, I'm just a regular aspect of humanity who was given this opportunity to find out how is that love, you know, and really find it. Not as a generality of our minds taking, how could that be love, but as an actual question to love itself. Show me how this is love, please. And then in each moment it unfolded to where it is now, and seeing the incredible benefits. Not that I want children to be hurt in this way. I'm not saying that that's okay. I'm just saying in our world, there's a lot of this kind of stuff going on in so many ways, in wars and what people, you know, it's just going at it to try to change the tip of the iceberg, like the patriarch. When it's not made up of what's in appearance here, whether it's Trump or whether it's all these politicians and, you know, that are finding out that they've, you know, Bill Cosby, all this stuff that's coming to light now of how murky and slippery things have been. And they didn't have the appearance, you know, before it was like, oh, all nice. Yeah. And then now we're falling in with more truthful happenings, and it's helping people to get more engaged in making a change. But making a change, there's places for going on walks and standing up for things. But if it's another fight, you know, it's just taking the same energy and smearing it around in another direction. And maybe some side will win and it'll seem better because your perspective sounds like it's better than the other perspective. And I say, guess what? There's a perspective and there's a perspective. And guess, here we are, right? The left and the right, the masculine and the feminine. Let it come in, feel the disturbance, whatever it is. Let it come to rest in its own way and then take action. Yeah. Meet the energetics. So that's using the mind, masculine, logic. Here are the details. This is what's really happening. And then letting them come in, the reception of the being, including yourself. That's the feminine aspect. And then taking action out of that. So the two play, right? And
that's so practical. What you've just said is so practical. Meet the energetics. You know, we're a culture that when we're not in our bodies, we live from the neck up. You know, we're not in here. And just as you were saying, you know, tell me about your, you know, the traumatic experience and how it's actually enabled you to be, you know, someone who can work with and help other people because you've done it yourself. Just the phrase that popped into my head, I'm not sure where this is in the Bible. I'm hoping it's somewhere, but it's or maybe one school of Christianity that the first thing Jesus did when he ascended to heaven was go down into hell and rescue the sinners. You know, it's the first thing he did was go down into hell, which is often felt.
Yes.
This is hell.
Right.
You know, the trauma is the hell.
Well, in a way, that's so perfect. That's exactly falling in with the victim, and it's, you know, it's quite strong, releases the perpetrator. Yeah. There is no perpetrator, you know, when I recognize the love. I mean, it's not to say that didn't happen. No. This person from that incident has left his body, you know, So, in other words, he's dead.
Yeah.
But which caused quite a reaction and response in my system. Just that, which I wouldn't even have known, had he not died, was quite different. I mean, all of it, we don't know how it affects, right? So it's not an easy journey, but if it's already happened, we're all up for it. I mean, this stuff has already, the mix and mingle of the energy, the effect of something like that is already in us. So this is just gently opening to it appropriately as the moment comes. It's not on all the time. It just comes. It gets triggered alive by, like when he left his body, then more energy came up and I was like, whoa, this is amazing how much, what I felt. And then diving into that and exploring it. Until the, whatever, at the same time as living a regular life and taking care of everything. It's not like the only thing that's happening,
So you become, it's an incredible thing, isn't it? You become aware that you're simultaneously the personality in all of its richness and fullness, which is perfect yet imperfect.
Yeah.
But simultaneously, you discover that you're also this kind of limitless, spacious, silent space in which the personality plays out. So you're completely empowered to be with, or potentially be with whatever shows up in the system.
Yeah. Because the system itself is the formlessness at play, right? So it's like the energy, even whatever happened, is actually just a play of energy.
Yeah.
That gets encapsulated because some part of us says no, of course.
Yeah.
Without even knowing what it was that was happening. This system completely contracted. That contraction holds the energy in the system until I'm ready to meet it.
And just talking about that yes that you were talking about, that giving that yes, and this is something I say to people just as a kind of like a key word is yes. When you're sitting with something, I can't be with it, I can't with it, just try dropping in a yes to it. Just because that instantly there's some space there. But for how many generations have we said no? All the no's have been passed down into this. No.
Right, but knowing that,
but
nice fun.
Knowing the no.
But knowing that the no is that impactful and that strong from the ancestry. Like, of course, whatever happened to me has been happening.
Yeah.
Right? It's even in the today's, there's members of my family that it also happened to within this time span. There are people who are alive today at the same time as me. And of course, it must have happened. Over and over and over again, as most of our families, it's fairly normal, really, unfortunately. But so to know that this is going to maybe be some pretty, feel pretty big if no one else has been opening to it within the family. But the wonderful acknowledgement of consciousness, of love, of God, to say, yes, you are up for this. And to take a deep breath. This? Yeah. We're with Rumi. This? Like this? Yes. It's like what you're saying, everybody. Yes. This too. Whoa. I can be with this? Apparently so, because here it is.
Yeah. And just kind of, moving forward, I just wonder if you have a sense of an overview of how your own message or teaching or understanding, is there a direction in which you can kind of see it going? Is something new emerging? Is it moving somewhere, or is it kind of just, is it okay where it is and you're just kind of sharing from that place, or both?
Yeah, beautiful. Well, that gives a beautiful opportunity to talk about desires. So thoughts, all of it is consciousness at play. So the repeating thoughts are ones that I like to support people to just take a little look, whatever's repeating, and lay them down on a piece of paper and see, what that is. If it's repeating, it's love trying to get your attention. Same way as discomfort is love trying to get your attention. Argument with someone's spouse is a way to get your attention. Basically, you're uncomfortable, right? It's like, oh, something's going on. Perfect is what I say. Then you can open to that and feel whatever that is. I just kind of lost where where's it all going?
Yeah.
Well, so that's where desire isn't something I don't recommend to be desireless. Like, you're not human if you're desireless. You can put them aside. There was a time in our evolution as human beings where kind of letting go of the more human aspects of life and living on the ashram or the cave or whatever was appropriate. And maybe it is appropriate for some people still. But the humanity, consciousness doesn't need to be conscious of that again because it's already conscious of that. So we've evolved to really fall in with the nuance of all of it, however it comes, and be involved in regular life together. Like, this is, we're really together in this, like, so much so. And the more exploration with the energetics, the more that's seen as utterly factual. It's not an idea. It's real. Absolutely the most real thing that's happening. And so desires fall in to the space.
Yeah.
We hear the desires. Now, a response can be to go and try and grab a hold of that. But as soon as there's a grabbing, there's actually energy out in front of the person. The wanting energy is something that will come out in front. And that'll be exactly in the way of whatever it is the desire says it wants. However, it pinpoints the something, and then we can call that wanting energy home within, because it needs to be within the system, or what appears here as a system in the sort of center spatial area. And then that leaves a vacuum in front of the person, and whatever is desired can come in. So then we're, talking about abundance. We're talking about inheriting, right? The kingdom. This is what Jesus talked about in that, right? The meek shall inherit the earth. So meekness means letting it in, surrendering. Vulnerability. It looks meek.
Yes.
Right? It's not going out there and making things, and taking things and having a big fight out there, and or the choices, like where logic.
Because then you think you have to do it. You as a separate person. Who else is going to do this? I've got to do this. Right, out I go.
Yeah.
Rather than, hang on, this is doing this. I can allow this to do this.
Yes.
I don't need to.
Right. But I am being honored to handle something as big as this.
Yeah.
Okay. And really saying yes to yourself and your abilities in a way of trust. And then the more a person trusts that, the more trust grows, and the more able and empowered each person becomes, and we become that together. And letting the heart beat, you can see that, where it can go with all of us meeting what has been that wasn't in harmony. And our desires are part of that. So the forward motion of existence as itself gets led by what falls in as desires, and they're almost always to do with happiness. People have desires of wanting a lot of money so they can share their heart in some more easeful way. They may not know that fully, but usually the root of people wanting more money is to provide for their family, or loving things.
Yes. Yeah. And the response that you get more and more, do you find that, are more people, are we kind of getting better at, allowing ourselves to settle into what's here? Is there a shift? Is there a change? Is it, you hear that a lot. You also hear that nothing's happening, and because nothing's happening. But you do hear that, people are, shifts are happening. And I wonder, just through your own experience of working with people and sitting with people, are you aware of people who are waking up?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. absolutely. I mean, when I first started offering, because I've always offered space in the energetics, because that's how I see things, you know, that's how I've seen everything. And it was much more of a marked difference, even 7 years. So, you know, this has been happening since 1999 that I've been offering support. And often people run away because they don't want to be that responsible.
So you could describe it as a responsibility.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean able to respond.
Yes.
Responsibility. So what I was offering wasn't exactly tasty compared to come into bliss, be in, you know, let the whole world go, let your story go, and just be in a blissful state. But, you know, that is wonderful for a while, and then it comes to neutrality. Likely, maybe some people it doesn't. I'm not them. I can't be them. All I've been able to do is keep being me. Because she's being done in the way she is, right? Like this. But I've noticed that this is becoming much more the message of many more people to embrace and embody the humanness, and that we're in this together, that it's not about becoming the guru of, you know, like Osho or, you know, Papaji, Ramana, you know, all that. They're still with us. You know, there's people who are still, you know, you can be with Ramana, right? And as we are too. It's an ongoing effect once you've been participatory, you know, whether it's someone's cousin. I mean, they still were given that aspect of space that's connected to all that is. So it's just, are we going to, you know, take that pill and much more people, the pill of reality, like in the Matrix, I mean.
Yes.
And so we're getting to be more of a tribe of singular aspects of consciousness, because we are alone, each with what we've been given, but together and falling in with that crazy, insane imperfect perfection. I definitely feel there's getting to be more and more space for reality to be known. That's how I would call it. Not just the space, but that which plays in it. And to really, you know, let the vastness be at home within the play of ourselves, including our crazy personalities. And so I definitely feel and see and feel. Truth is, you know, I may as well, because it's all happening anyway. And diving in with how wrong things are and how unharmonic things can be, and choices that people make. It's not to deny that. I'm aware of it, and and then I use that to further encourage myself to be available in more ways, you know, as much as I can support people. That's what love says for me. And I've committed myself 100% to that. But does that mean that I'll, you know, disrespect her and have people come who aren't actually committed to themselves and want stuff for free? Yes, there's stuff for free. I mean, this here podcast, right? It's going to be available, and all my videos, there's tons of stuff that's free. And if people are committed, they're going to put that down for themselves, right? So for satsang, I say, yes, you know, we use money to create value. Here's the spot for you to commit to yourself. So then I know when they come, they're ready for themselves. They've already committed to it. I'm just there to support them in that.
They've taken the pill. I mean,
you're exactly. So if people find value in exploring themselves in this way, or they find value in just getting to know themselves and enlightenment, because that's the side effect. Both directions.
Yes.
Clarification of what appears as this self leads to the same place, where the fabric becomes so much more light and light and light that it suddenly it's seen. It cannot hold the fantasy any longer. because it's too light, it's too spacious. And the person just pops.
Yes. And what I always find interesting is that may sound like a huge commitment, and in a way, yes, it is. But it doesn't take much time at all, even often instantaneously, for either for something to be pointed out or just to recognize oneself. Hang on, that's not me. That's not true. That's not. It doesn't. It's this weird thing that it's the most difficult thing to see, and yet simultaneously, always obviously.
As soon as it's seen.
As soon as it's seen, it's like,
exactly. Like, wow,
yeah.
right? I mean, talk about in your face. Right?
Well, that doesn't get
not
more.
only in your face, but in your whatever your is.
Whatever your face is appearing to.
Yeah.
Well, I've really enjoyed talking to you, and you're obviously a remarkable woman, and teacher, and I love that just chatting and here and listening to you talk. Just the where you stand in your life is so different to where where it seems that so many of us live, which is in the no, in the refusal, in the complaining, which is okay, that's okay, but it's such a contrast to hear your story and all that you've gone through and worked with and open to, that just helps you say yes more, and to allow them to begin to say yes to what is going on for them.
Yeah.
That's
and
really.
even yes to their no.
Even,
right?
Yeah, you can't leave their no out.
And that's where the inclusion of themselves as a person and being loving to themselves. And that's a direction not very many people are actually including, and that they also get to be loved in each moment and be held by love. And so instead of, this whole selfless thing about, for everybody else and for everybody else, well, then cancer comes, it has to include ourselves, and that might be selfish in a way, but this is the type of selfliness that is vital. Vital now, because if we're not feeling self-compassion for whatever it is we've experienced, we cannot, the compassion we feel for others is not at depth. It's just a mind thing. I should be kind. And so there's a functioning of kindness, of what it's supposed to look like, compared to kindness that in a moment where the door is open for someone and you meet and greet someone, and it's very simple, doesn't have a something happening, and is effortless and is a win-win in the moment. Real. It's real.
It's real. What a word to end on. It's real. So thank you. I hope that was enjoyable, and hopefully we'll definitely invite you back next year.
Yes.
And hopefully you say a big yes to that.
I
again.
have a big yes for that already. So we'll see if it comes through.
Yeah.
In all the other details that bring me from Canada, or Mexico. Probably won't be in Mexico in the middle of summer, but.
Okay.
It's been so enjoyable to be here. It's been wonderful, this talk and all the contact we've had. Is your podcast still called Being Ordinary?
Yeah, it's kind of in the background for a little bit, but
okay.
yeah, it's still there. It's still there.
Because I think that
was our initial contact, wasn't it?
Yeah, but it's also who we are.
Yeah.
Being ordinary, yourself as a father, and right in the existence like this, and so it's
embracing the ordinary.
Letting it embrace us.
Yes.
Falling in with the embrace.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah, and sorry, yeah. Thank you for this interview and all.
That was a pleasure. Thank you very much.